The Denver Broncos have their quarterback of the future. Well, that is what they're hoping for with the 12th overall pick. They take Bo Nix. Rod, there's so much to break down, but we got to start with the fact that 6 quarterbacks were taken in the top 12 picks. 6 ties the record for the most taken in the first round. Just bonkers, but it's also one of the reasons why you say the Broncos had to take him at 12.
It also goes to show, I think, that the NFL has become a quarterback league. It used to be all the time you heard defense wins championships. The first defensive player just went in the 15th overall pick. First 14 players were offensive guys. 6 of the first 12 quarterbacks, including Bo Nix, to the Broncos. I mean, you don't have to convince anyone who saw the CU Oregon game how good Bo Nix is. He can light it up, and you can mention what Adam Schefter said about what Sean Payton said, but I know when he talks to us, he's going to talk about how he's a big fan about it. A lot of people, I think, wanted J.J. McCarthy. Yeah. There were other bigger names out there that were projected to go higher than Bo, but I'm guessing the Broncos are going to say that this is the guy they wanted all along.
Well, and we just heard from Bo Nix, and he said he kind of had an idea the Broncos were interested in him. He said they came out to Eugene, which is not easy to get to. My photographer and I, Dave, know very well it's not easy to get to. But he said he talked a lot of football with Sean Payton. There's all these reports coming out now that the Broncos sent him a bunch of tapes. Then he aced it in the classroom. He aced it on the field. And Adam Schefter reporting that Sean Payton feels as strongly about Bo Nix as he did about Patrick Mahomes. The story, of course, goes in the draft. He wanted to draft Patrick Mahomes. Andy Reid leapfrogged him.
By one.
So in many ways, you feel like Sean Payton is staking his reputation here on Bo Nix. He believes he is the quarterback of the future. He had a historic college career. I mean, he set completion records at Oregon. He started in 61 games. That's the most in NCAA history. I think Sean Payton really likes that experience as well.
Yeah, he played Oregon, and before that he was playing for Auburn. This is a guy, Pac-12 Offensive Player of the Year, Heisman Trophy finalist. I mean, the college resume is incredible. It's what the Broncos needed. They had to get a quarterback. I mean, there's going to be talk about, did you go best available player or did you draft for need? I think you could safely say that they drafted for need. And you got a very good player in Bo Nix, but the fact that not a defensive player had gone before them. Brock Bowers, a tight end, goes the pick after him. There was a lot of talent on the board, but the Broncos have a lot of need. But there is no position more important than the quarterback. Bo Nix and the Broncos, I mean, from what we heard we've been talking about this for weeks, for months, since the season ended. And it did seem that there was a tie between these two, because when they were at the Combine, Sean Payton would test these guys out. And this seems to be what Bo Nix, we just heard him on the conference call, and he kept talking about how he loved to talk ball. He loved to talk ball. Well, that's exactly what Sean Payton likes, and you could see these two just meshing like this. It's very exciting for Broncos country.
Well, and this started to come out kind of before the drafts, that the Broncos had quietly done a lot of information on Bo Nix. Now, there was all of this stuff out there about J.J. McCarthy. I often think when it comes to the draft, when you're hearing so much about one guy, a team loving one guy, there feels like that's usually not true. Who knows if J.J. McCarthy, they liked them more than Bo Nix, but not enough to trade up, right? So it might have been that was a lot of fodder. There was conversation that the Vikings were trying to bait the Broncos into trading up maybe for J.J. McCarthy. So the Vikings end up taking J.J. McCarthy, but it's pretty clear, and we'll hear from Sean Payton later, Bo Nix was kind of the choice all along, maybe the third guy on their board behind a Jaden McDaniels type.
And it's interesting to listen to him, because now he, quote unquote, will back up Jarrett Stidham. You now have Zach Wilson here as well. The Broncos have gone from no quarterbacks. Now Ben DiNucci's still here. Now they have a lot of options to choose from. I think everyone would be shocked if Bo Nix is not your starting quarterback, though. I mean, you don't draft a guy this early to sit on a bench. You don't have some juggernaut starter in front of him. This is going to be Bo Nix's team. It's going to take a while. There's going to be more losses than wins for the Broncos this season, but you got a quarterback who you're hoping is the franchise quarterback, a guy that can take you. This will be, I believe it's the 14th, correct? 14th different Broncos starter since Peyton.
Yeah.
It's
a lot.
It's been a rough go without a doubt. It's a gamble, but this is one the Broncos, I think most believe, they had to make. They had to get a quarterback, and there was talk of perhaps they'd be able to trade back pick up a 2 and then come back in and get Bo Nix or Michael Penix Jr. Well, then Penix goes in the number 8 to Atlanta, so
Crazy.
he's gone. And there was a lot of speculation that the Raiders were going to draft Bo Nix. So if you wanted to get Bo, you had to take him at 12, and that's what Denver did.
Another interesting connection, Alex Forsythe, who's a center here on the Broncos, he'll be in the running to compete for starting center this year. He played with Bo Nix. Apparently, he had a lot of conversations with the Broncos brass, pumping up Bo Nix, telling him all the things that he really liked. There's a connection there. We know how important the connection is between the quarterback and the center. Not to say that that was the main reason they made the decision, but things like that certainly factor in.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting because you can see Bo is so excited to be here. I know Sean and the Broncos are thrilled to have him here, and I think the bottom line is, it's hard coming to the NFL as a quarterback. Dan Marino was the exception. Usually you don't have a guy who comes in and makes an impact that fast. It's very difficult to do. I mean, John Elway lined up in the wrong position in his first year. There's no one perfect. It's tough. So he's not going to come in right away and be that star, but the Broncos are betting he will be eventually. And I think it's a move they had to do. It's a position they had to draft. And you've seen this guy put up spectacular stats in college football, and we all realize that it's a completely different game in the NFL, but this seems to be a guy, from everything we've read, heard, and what we've seen on the field, the Broncos believe this is a guy who can make that difference, and they need it. I mean, it's been so bad for so long. The Broncos need to put up some points. Hopefully Bo can do that.
Yep, you got to try. Well, the Broncos have potentially their quarterback of the future, someone we assume Sean Payton believes is their quarterback of the future. Bo Nix is a Denver Broncos. Thanks so much for joining us here. We'll have much more from the draft throughout the weekend.